Donkeys. And Steve, we're going to have a lot of new folks joining us this week who have never been with us before. So I'm very excited. If this is your first time, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. This time is 100% about you. This time is 100% about getting the mule and donkey questions that you have answered, so you can get back out there and you can be more effective. You can be more successful in your training, your riding, your driving, everything that you do. Steve, how is your day going so far?
Well, it's doing good now. As you know, Dave, my iPhone went down the tube.
Yeah, it did.
I had, all I did was plug it into the computer so that I could get a picture or two. And all of a sudden, this thing shows up and it says, you're not working.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, spent time with you. I was online, and finally I called Apple. And now, guess what? I got a phone.
You got it
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, and it only says that I have 22, altogether 32 phone calls that I have not gotten back to yet.
That's
32.
You reply to all those calls. You call everybody back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's one thing, Dave, me selling somebody something, but I want them to know how to use it,
Yeah.
So you think I'm kidding you? Right there, 32 phone calls. You see that?
You
32. That's okay.
You're
And
calling someone right now.
actually, somebody's calling me.
Someone's calling you.
Yeah.
There we go. Hey, if that's your number, go ahead, hop online. Come hang out with us on
Yeah.
Facebook and
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. I don't know who it is. Somebody in Phoenix. Nobody in Phoenix knows me.
Oh my goodness. Well, folks, again, if this is your first time ever hanging out with us, my name is Dave. This is Steve. Steve has spent the last 40 years plus learning about the mule, learning about the donkey, and what he has decided to do with the rest of the days that he has is to get everybody as much information as possible, share all the information that all those cowboys have invested in him, all those lessons that he's learned, all those lessons that are now hanging up on the shelf in his tack room, all those lessons that he learned to come and share it with you. And if you look through the comments, if you look through the different things that people have said on Facebook, you can find that there's a lot of folks who are experiencing a lot of real help, and that's what we're here for today. So there's before we get into welcoming everyone, there's just three things that we ask. And if you've been watching us any number of days now, you know the same three things. The first one is that you just let us know that you're here. Share your name, where you're watching from. We're not alone here. You're not alone here. This is a community that we're forming, right? This thing goes as you guys want it to go. So make sure that you share your name and you share where you're watching from. We want to recognize you. We want you to know that we see you, and we want to know that you see us. The second thing is that you ask your question. We have answered so many questions. I think probably over 400 or 500 questions in the last, 30 weeks that we've done this. We've answered so many questions, and a lot of those have been repeats, and that's okay because we got new folks coming in all the time. And like I said, we have a lot of folks this week who are joining us for the first time, never been with us before, and we're so glad that you're here. So ask your question, put it in there. We will make sure to get to it. A lot of times we even wind up staying longer than 60 minutes to make sure that every question gets an answer because we know it's important to you. And the third thing that we ask is that you share the broadcast. Now, if you're on YouTube, you can take and copy the link and you can share it anywhere you want. If you're watching on Facebook, down at the bottom, you'll see a little button that says share. You just click that, share it to your wall, because the number one way we find new folks is through you guys, your network, your people in the mule community. You know more people than we do. And so relying on you, we want you to help put us in front of the people who need the information the most. So Steve, what do you say? Should we start welcoming some folks here?
Hey, that'd be great. It's fun this past week, especially with my emails and stuff. First thing people have been saying, man, we thank you so much for doing that program.
Yeah. Yeah, folks are enjoying it. We've got David Scholl watching. We've got David Pengelly watching. Good to see you, David. Both Davids. Let's see here. We've got Linda Dean watching from Queen Creek. We've got David Pengelly saying, I have been waiting all day for this. Well, David, we've been waiting for you, so it's good to have you here. Kathy Larson from North Idaho. Celeste watching. Scott and Celeste watching from Florida. Jana from Wheatland, Wyoming. Christina from Piney Flats, Tennessee. We've got Mark Miller Good time to explain to my farrier that he needs to do jazz and farrier can watch and save a phone call. Thanks for everything. Sundance Kid. We've got Diane from North Carolina. We've got David over on YouTube watching from Colorado. We've got Rob watching from Central Florida. The gang is on here. All here. We should get started with our first question. What do you say?
Hey, sounds good to me. Let's fire her up.
All right. So the first question that we have, and this one came in from Mary on Facebook. She left a comment in Facebook comments, and that's the way we do things here. You get priority. If you comment live on Facebook, you get priority, and we push everything else down to the bottom. So Mary commented on Facebook, asked the question, suggestions for exercises to get a mule to collect and turn smooth circles when she has a tendency to stiffen the neck and resist. Doing lots of outside leg, closing door on inside rein, light squeezes on the inside rein so she can't hang there, using French link round bit snaffle, but she does great on the trail. We are working cones and my body position through turns. What do you have to say there, Steve?
Sounds like an experienced horseback rider. Yes, sir. She's doing the proper things for a horse. Number one, egg butt snaffle. Those mules could care less about that. When it comes down to training, folks, it's imperative you understand you've got a donkey head, donkey mind frame. And it sounds like this lady's got some experience. She understands hands and this sort of thing. Here's the downside. When they're stiffening up in the neck, folks that are horseback riders always tend to use snaffle bits because they think it's easier on the animal, but they end up pulling more. And so when they're pulling, they got their hands clear over here, and they're overemphasizing their torso and their seat when they're pulling, and then the mule stiffens his neck to protect himself. And he stiffens all 5 major neck muscles. The neck muscle across the crest of the neck, here, down through the middle and along the esophagus, and the 2 along the shoulder. That's what they're doing. And on top of all that, they are stiffening the throat latch. So it's what horse people do, and I understand this, but we're riding a mule, folks, and when it comes down to a smooth snaffle bit, a egg butt bit, a full cheek snaffle bit, any smooth snaffle bit, they're going to go, nah, 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 nah. And especially when you're an experienced rider, you're thinking, man, this mule ought to be responding to my legs. Listen, you do not use your legs when you're building a foundation. The legs are second. Your hands are first with the mouth. There's too much information. This donkey is detailed on the mule side. He's detailed. A horse, you can just push through it. Not this donkey, okay, on the mule side. It's like that cup that was given to me the other day. A horse will accept you for who you are as boss, and the mule wants to know your resume. Listen, folks, here, listen, this is important, and this is good, Dave, because this is where in my clinics, when I have a good horse rider like this lady, she's using all the right terminology, she's exactly right for a horse. But a mule changes leads different. A mule, comes off the hindquarters different, and your hands are different. When you are riding and you're riding in your snaffle bit, my mule rider's martingale's what I prefer you to do, your hands are here. Now notice, my hands go direction, impulsion. You remember that, Dave?
Yeah, I do remember that. I had a heck of a time with it, but I got it now. Direction, impulsion.
There you are. That's right.
Direction, impulsion.
That's right. But here's what she's doing, David, and she's doing right for a horseman, okay? But when they've got their hands on the reins, you can bet their hands are like this.
Yeah.
Rarely are they going to be like this because they tend to pull. And watch, here's the horn. Right here where my head is, that's the horn. So my left hand does not go past the horn, no farther than that. My right hand goes no further than the horn. And you can bet, Dave, that these folks are going past that horn And what they're doing is they're over pulling, and the mule's going, wait a minute, I'm hurting, right? You know what it feels like,
Yep.
you know? And it stiffens right up, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, you know? And so that's what happens. You're overemphasizing. Folks, these mules need small movements, detail. Small movements will get you just huge areas. I mean, you'll go a long ways quicker. Everybody's wanting to hurry up and get it done. You don't make the bit work. You show the bit to work. Direction, impulsion. That's what you do. No more than that, okay? And leave your legs alone. The legs come after the mule respects the bit. Then we add legs. My ultimate goal, 80% off my legs in my seat. 20% on my hands. That's my ultimate goal. But folks, you're training on a donkey here, and a mule, and a horse. Forget about the horse part. And I know a lot of you don't understand donkeys, okay? And I realize that. And I realize if Eric Palmer was on here right now, he could tell you where I'm coming from. But anyway, here's the deal, folks. Leave your legs alone. Keep your legs quiet. As the mule progresses, when you can use your snaffle bit one-handed, then you can start adding legs. But not until then. In the very beginning, snaffle bit, two hands. As you progress, and after 3 months of training, 4 to 6 hours a week, in 3 months, you should be pretty handy with one hand, backing up 2 steps, go to the right 2 steps, go to the left 2 steps, stop, all that in small areas. When you start doing that, start adding your legs. Now, let's go back to the bit. I know, folks, I know you said, I want to keep my mule soft. Yes, I agree with you. You know, that mule should outdo a horse 10 to 1, as far as I'm concerned, all right? Now, when you're using a smooth snaffle bit, especially an egg butt's really soft, but not to a mule. A mule, you're pressuring him. You're putting pressure on him. You're pressuring the donkey's side. So that's why I developed the Mule Riders Martingale, David. So that was a big deal, but it is a big deal. This lady knows what she's doing, you know. You can hear it in her conversations. She's using the right terminology. Now, when it comes in the legs, though, she's using her legs like a horse, going into a lead departure. Okay, that means, what lead departure means, Dave, is that I want to lope to the left. In other words, I want to go out of a walk, out of a trot, and I want to go in a nice canter, slow walk. So notice how my left hand is out, my right hand is back. That's called the left lead. Now, I want to do a change of lead. So I do a flying lead change. Now my right hand goes out farther, and my left hand is back here. That is a lead change. Now I'm going to the right side. Now I do a lead change, and now I go to the left side. Okay? And what people do is they don't use their hands much. It's mostly focusing on the legs, and they wonder why the mule doesn't lope a nice circle between the reins and between the legs. It's because they're putting pressure on them. They're using the legs incorrectly, which we can talk about that another time. But right there, folks, don't use smooth snaffle bits. You're going to pay the price one day. Like you said, you say she's good out on the trail. She's out on the trail. She's got one animal behind the other. You know, it don't take much to do that.
Yeah.
She'll respond nice because she's listening to the front mule. She's listening to the back mule. It's when you're riding by yourself or you're moving cows, there's when you're going to see the difference. So I pounded that one pretty good, but it needed to be.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I like the fact that she's asking the questions, because that's really where the solutions come. The solutions come when you're willing to ask the questions. So we've got a few more folks here. We've got, let's see, we've got Karen watching. We've got Jan watching. We've got Yolanda. We've gone international. Yolanda from the Netherlands. We've got Christina watching. We've got Lynn Ann watching. And this question comes from Karen. This question is, hi, thanks for the live Q&A. I'm watching from Virginia. We're planning to take our mules from Virginia to Wyoming to elk hunt in September. Do you think we should use blankets on the mules if it gets below freezing at night or if it snows, since they will not have a winter coat? This is a good question. What do you have to say there, Steve?
Awesome question. I have taken blankets and I have not taken blankets. I can tell you that the biggest problem that you're going to have is an altitude change from Virginia to Colorado. And you're also going to have a change in water. So that's another thing. I tried the blanket thing, and on some mules it was needed. You could see they were kind of shivering, okay? Others, they could care less about it, okay? So you're just going to have to take them, and then you can make a decision as you go along and see what happens. Is it a full hood? In other words, do you have a hood along with the blanket, or is it just the blanket itself? That's another thing to consider.
Very good. So, Karen, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free. We'll get to it there. Just want to say a quick hello to Cal Boykin Forcier in Connecticut, watching over on YouTube, and Dan Davis from San Augustine, Texas. Glad to have you all here. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know. If this is your first time watching, my name's Dave. This is Steve, and we're here until the bottom of the next hour to just chat. Mules, donkeys, this is 100% guided by you. We will take the conversation wherever you want to go. And the next question that we've got, this one is from Lynn Ann. She says, hi, guys. It's Lynn, Fancy, and Bambi from Colorado Springs. Got a question. My youngest donkey, Bambi, has gotten really naughty. She has started pulling away to eat grass. I started reusing the come along, but she won't come when called, and I can't catch her. Both know that they can pull away from me. How do I reestablish leadership? I'm 70 years old and can't afford a fall.
Yes, absolutely. Number one, take them out of the pasture, take them out of a big arena, put them in a small area where each one of them you can maintain them. Folks, I can't tell you how many times I talk to people every day, every week, and all of a sudden they've had a really nice mule or a really nice donkey. They turn them out in a pasture. Now the donkey don't need you. Yes, you're a predator. They're a prey animal. When they got their buddies and they got green grass and they got water, they don't need you, folks. And that's just the way life is. So how do you fix it? Okay, I know you got all that green grass out there, all that pasture, and it's all free. But you're going to pay the price if you keep it up. So I would put them in small pens. I suggest 20 by 20 or 10 by 20, but something small that you can maintain them. And then you will turn them one at a time out in a pasture if you want to do that. I suggest overnight, just turn them out. The other donkey ain't going to like it. The other mule is going to throw a fit and this sort of thing. But you know what? They'll get over it. It's not Burger King. They don't get it their way. They will get over it, folks. They will. But we got to quit letting these animals dictate to us, and we put our own feelings into it. And I know it, But listen, Fluffy will do just fine if you will treat Fluffy like a mule, not a dog, not a cat. You have to be the herd leader, and you have to toughen up, And they'll go be just fine, They'll be fine.
Great question. We've got a follow-up here from, from Jana. I was worried about bringing my Arkansas mule to Wyoming since we just had a big snowstorm. She went from 80 degrees to 30 degrees. She has not shivered at all. Yeah,
well, there you are. I can't tell you how many times, Dave, I've been up in Montana and Wyoming, and it'd be below zero.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a nice barn. Them mules got a nice barn. Or nice trees to stand there. They're out in the middle, just standing there. I think they like to soak the snow up, They're just standing there. And I've seen them here in Arizona, 110, 115. They've got their shade. They'll stand out in the sun and just sit there and soak on it,
Good temperament.
They're smart enough. They know what to do to take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see here. We got a couple more folks. We've got Phil from Wrightsville, Georgia. We've got Julie from California and Sherry from with another hot day in Pensacola, Florida. Howdy, y'all. Glad you're here. Remember, ask any questions that you got. The next one we've got, this one comes from Kathy, And Kathy says, what bit do you recommend for all around use?
Okay. All right. Now, there's two bits in my mind. One, a snaffle bit when I'm building a foundation, starting a new animal, and whether it be a young or old, and I use a snaffle bit also for fixing problems. Only time I use a snaffle bit, those two problems. And when I do it, I use my Mule Rider's martingale with my double twister wire snaffle bit. That's what I do. Now, when I have a mule that that does good, is probably working off of my legs pretty nice. I can side pass, turn on a forehand, turn on the hindquarters, and I want to use one hand and two hands. So anytime you're using two hands, folks, that is for one thing and one thing only. That is for training. Otherwise, one-handed. Even if you're riding in a snaffle bit going down the trail, training, one-handed. Then when you got to fix them, pick it up, direction, impulsion, and ride with a snaffle bit. Now, you can ride with my Trail Rider bit. Comes in a 5 1/4 or 5 1/2. And matter of fact, Dave, we just did a little video on that talking about how to measure that off.
We did. Yeah, I've got that one queued up ready to go.
Oh, dear, good deal. So you know, it comes in both ways. Now, this is what we want to do. The snaffle bit communicates to the tongue, the bars of the mouth, the corners of the mouth. That's the snaffle bit. The Trail Rider bit communicates to the palate of the mouth, bars of the mouth, underneath the chin with a chin strap. Now, it does do some of the corners of the mouth, but most of all, just those three. So, if I was going to ask you the question, which I always do when you contact me about a bit, I'm going to ask you how much you're riding off your hands, how much you're riding off of your legs.
I put a link to the mule bits, everything you need to know, just good general information when folks are looking at bits. You go into there basically saying I have my two bits that I use driving, riding, but then the purpose of the other ones. So Carolyn, hopefully that gives you the answer that you're looking for. And if you have any follow-ups, let me know. Bits are a complicated thing, and there's a lot of different stuff out there. One of the things that Steve starts off with in one of his videos that we got up on YouTube is he says, you've got your pretty bits, you got your ugly bits, you got your pretty ugly bits. And he says, you know, this one, oh, it's real nice. It's got the engraving. You know what? That's not the bit for you. Oh, look at this one right here. It's got a really cool design. Nope, that's not the bit for you. The bit for you is the one that works for the mule. Right, Steve? Have I heard that correctly?
That's your communication tool.
Yeah.
You know, and you're yelling and screaming at all these mules and donkeys with the type of bits that we're using for a horse. We got a palate that is different. We got a mindset that's different. Folks, you're riding in a Lexus and you need to have it equipped to communicate correctly.
Yeah. So the next question we got here, lots of really great questions coming in. We'll make sure to get to all of them. This one comes from David Pingelli. He says, if you are to travel for a long period of time, how long can a mule stand being trailed and stand tied? In other words, when you reach your destination and you have to tie to your trailer.
Well, you know, Dave, that really kind of depends on how good a condition my mule is in. And that's really important, folks. Don't go by how big they are and how stout they are and this sort of thing. Go by condition. You think about it. Put a backpack on your back and then go walking and see how long it takes you to get tired. Or think about the mule. Yeah, he's got 4 legs. Yeah, he weighs 1,100 pounds. And he's packing 200 pounds plus a saddle, 250 pounds. Okay, well, that's all well and good if he is in condition. So, for instance, at Yosemite, we would park at the gateway. We would pack our 5 mules. We would climb on our riding animal. We would tie our 5 mules together, and then we would go into camp with trail camps. That averaged about 18 miles. Now, these mules are in condition, folks. They're in condition. So we get in 18 miles, up and down mountains, crossing creeks, tough places, sometimes muddy and slippery, which you have to consider. And then we get into camp. we unload our gear and we turn our animals out. My riding animal always is hobbled with a back leg, and I turn my mules loose. I don't tie them. I pull the halters off so they don't get hung up, and I just turn my mules loose. Why do I do that? Because they are interested in my riding animal, which at Yosemite, we always rode geldings. They would come back, look at the gelding, see everything was good, then they'd go off a ways. You would hardly see those mules go out of sight because mules are subservient to horses. They're subservient to them. And when it comes down to the mule and the horse, as soon as the horse comes around, they out-trump you, folks. You know, they will go to that horse before they go to you, without a doubt. If the horse jumps off a cliff, the mule might consider it. Now, I know it's kind of crazy, but it's going to happen. But anyway, there's the long and the short of it. Hope that gives you some thoughts.
All right, so this next question we got here, this one comes from Roland. He says, I've got a 12-year-old Molly, and I ordered the problem mule video come along rope and halter bundle. The problem I'm having is getting her to stand still long enough to get the come along on her. Can I use the come along over the halter?
Okay, so yes, can you use the come along over the halter? Yes, you can. But make sure that the come along, and here's going to be the problem that you're going to have. The come along has to be below the halter, because if it's around the halter and the halter is underneath the come along, you're not going to get crisp, clean communication. You're not going to get it. So if you have to, you can do it. But you're going to work a lot harder when that come-along hitch is over top of the rope. So here's the thing, folks. And this is really important because we have to understand that there's a beginning and there's an end. And I know most of us want to hurry up and get to the end. Before that come-along hitch would go on, before that bridle would go on, before that halter would go on, the first thing I'm going to do is teach my mule to drop his head, tip his nose to the left, and keep it there. And you've seen this, Dave. Keep it there until I put the halter on. If I cannot, ask the mule to drop his head, tip his nose to the left, and put the halter on. The halter don't go on. The come along hitch don't go on. Because listen, folks, if they've made the mule nervous and antsy and this sort of thing there, putting a rope halter on or putting a come along on, guess what? You get out on a trail, you're going to have the same problem. They're going to be hurrying up, antsy, worried, and this sort of thing. Fix it before you go out on the trail. A helicopter ride is not cheap, folks. So, take your time. You guys, all of you all are supposed to be enjoying these animals. It's not like we have to, like when we're working for somebody, we got to hurry up and get them saddled and get them gone. No. You guys are using these mules and horses and donkeys to get out of the world that you're used to being in, and you're coming here to escape. So take your time, partner. Put your hand on the pole, put your hand on the nose, get the mule to get quiet and drop the head. And then when you put the come-along hitch on, put it on one step at a time. Take your time. You're probably rushing trying to put it on, and the mule's going, man, this is crazy. No. Look, hand on the nose, pull the loop over top, nice and quiet. Give him a pet and a scratch. Good for you. Now we go around the nose again. Pull the rope over top of the ears. At any one time during the process of putting the come-along hitch on or the halter or the bridle, if they move their head, stop. Be precise. Every move a picture. And folks, if you get the mule to think with you here, it's going to be awesome when you get in the saddle. But if you're not thinking here on the ground, getting their head down and get soft, when you get in the saddle, I'm going to hurry up and go riding. Well, the mule's going to blow his mind out, folks. Ain't going to happen. You're going to have a wreck on looking for a place to happen.
I just put a link. You've got a great video on YouTube, and it shows you installing the rope halter, and it shows you with the mule's head down and with your hands out like this, and how he goes to move his head, and then you just barely touch his nose, and he goes back. And then he goes to move it, you barely touch it, he goes back. Goes to move it, barely touch it, goes back. So really good video. Roland, I would recommend that. Roland had a second question. He emailed this one in. So same Molly, it looks like. While she's not exhibited any dangerous behavior yet, I want to get the jump on preventing any. She can be handled, but is not the quiet, manageable saddle mule I'd like to have. I'm guessing she's not been treated very well in the past. My question is, which of your training videos would be best suited for working with an older mule of uncertain past training? That's interesting. Just start her foundation from scratch like a colt, or redefine foundation like a problem mule? I've only had her a few days, so letting her settle in a bit, but she doesn't stand quietly, lead very well. Readily pick up feet, basically doesn't have a good ground foundation. Which approach do you suggest? This is a good question.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you know, Dave, we hear this all the time. People think because the mule is not responding like Fluffy should, and they're not nice and quiet, they've been beat on. No, folks. Most of these animals, when they're like that, it's their nature. It's the kind of animal that I look for when I'm going to go work cows. I don't want to have one that's just plodding down the road. I want one ready to go. Let's kind of look around. Let's go. But I'm going to have a foundation on that mule so that I can direct that energy, and that's really important. I suggest to you that do the ground communication like you're doing now. Use your rope halter. That video that Dave just set you up with there, showing you the steps, get the head down nice and quiet. Who cares about the past? Hey, got a favorite saying, the past is the past. It's dead at last, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Who cares? When people bring me mules to these clinics and stuff or expos, they say, well, let me tell you what he does. And I'll say, well, no. That's not important. Let me tell you where he's been. That's not important to me. Okay? Tell me what you're having a problem with, and let me help you. And then I'll help the mule through it. Okay? I don't pre-train these mules. All of my videos, it's not Hollywood, folks. You see the actual what happens when it happens. You see me screw up. You see me fix things. You see it. So let's go back to this, I would start with the ground communication first. That's where I would start. Halter work is the most important thing. Then I would go with the video, the colt foundation starting. Now, just because it says colt, don't really mean a whole lot. It's still, you're going to see 5 people, 5 different animals, and none of these people are trainers, by the way, folks. They're just everyday folks, riding a mule for the first time. The other video I strongly, highly suggest everybody get, and it's called After the Wreck. That video will help. You'll see a lady who's going through some problems. She almost raised this mule, and you'll see the problems that she's having, and everybody at first would think, oh, that mule, he's been abused. No, that lady never abused that mule. It's its nature. It's its nature. Now, and let me also help you with this, folks. Now, that lady also later on went ahead and gave that mule another home, and she found a mule that she just loves. The mule can't wait to be with her. It don't cost any more to feed a mule that loves you compared to a mule that doesn't fit you. If it don't fit you, find a home for him. No big deal, okay? You're not married to that puppy for life. You're not married to old Fluffy. So, if you want to get something done, that kind of mule.
That's good. So hopefully, Roland, hopefully that helps. I just sent you an email back. If you have any follow-up questions, do let me know. So Carolyn was the one that asked a question earlier about the bit, and she has a follow-up. She says, I would like to also know if Steve has ever used the Myler bit that also nose pressure.
Yeah.
Myler bit.
Carolyn, I am not a proponent of any type of bit that communicates to the nose, the mouth, and underneath the chin. Leave the nose alone. The nose is in your foundation training, period. Don't use a combination bit like that. Now, I know Dale Myler well. We've done clinics side by side and this sort of thing, and they make an awesome bit. I mean, it's a great bit for a horse. Your mule has a different mind frame. Your mule cares more about its nose and its mouth. That's why I tell you, do ground communication first, using the come along rope, using the rope halter. Do not ride in the rope halter. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. You can ride in a hackamore later on after you're doing your training on your horse, on your bridle. Okay? But now I don't like that Myler bit. I don't like any kind of bit that does nose, mouth, and underneath the chin. It's way overpowering the mule. And folks, I can't tell you how many people that have come to my clinics and they've got a runaway. And I say, two things. Let me see your bit. It's probably a nose, mouth, and underneath the chin. Yeah, it is. Okay. And what's the other thing they do? Lateral flexions. Both things are what makes a mule stiff. They get worried, they get scared, and they run through their shoulder, and they're a runaway. Folks say, well, I've been doing good. No. Look at the nose. It's sticking out. Look at the head. It's elevated. You should be framed up. Just because you're doing good going down the trail, hey, that's just part of being an equine's life. But when you actually need to use that animal, that's when you find out if your foundation training is right.
That's good. So we got another question here. This one comes from Marcus. Marcus, so grateful for your question. Glad that you're here. Says, I'm looking for a source to get riding, saddled, and packing gear for my mini donkey. There's lots of gear online. Who's the best? Thanks, Marcus, Saratoga Springs, New York. So riding and packing gear for a mini donkey.
Well, I guess they'll have to talk to some of our clients, huh?
Yeah, right?
We got clients all over the world, folks. The lady in what was her name? I think she's in the Netherlands too. She's got all those donkeys. Huh?
Sue?
Yeah, I think that's it. And you can see her, and she's in the Netherlands, and she's riding the donkeys. Hey, how about Eric? Out of Colorado. He makes pack saddles. Those designs come off of my design for my pack saddle. And hey, here's Eric's hat right there.
Yeah.
There it is. And he is right now in Bishop, California, folks. And so Eric could help you out. And also Eric Palmer, he rides his jack and he rides it on my saddle, So to answer your question, partner, give me a call. Let's talk. I've got the saddles. I've got the pack outfits. We got it all, and we can help you out.
Very good. Yeah. If anybody watching has any of Steve's saddles, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Just go ahead and put them in the comment section there. Love to see, who out there is riding Steve's stuff. If you're not, that's completely fine too. This is actually not a sales pitch for Steve's stuff. This is just to come and talk mules and donkeys. Hopefully that's the vibe you're getting. I put a link to Eric Lynn's Mountain Ridge Gear website in the comment section. Let's see here. Deanna Marie over on YouTube says here. We've got Dawn who's watching. We've got, let's see, who else? Julie. We've got Tracy. We've got Jack. We've got all of the gang here. Folks, if this is the first time you're hanging out with us, or if you're just hopping on right now, make sure you say hello. Put your name and where you're watching from in the comment section. We just want to know that you're here, acknowledge you, say hello to you. Number two, if you've got any questions, put that in the comment section as well. We do everything we can to make sure that we see every comment and get every question answered. And the third one is that you share this broadcast out on your page. If you're on YouTube, copy the link, share it wherever your friends and family, wherever you're interacting with them. And if you're on Facebook, just click the share button. The next question that we've got here, this one comes from Eddie, and she says, Please explain why fire rigging does not work well. My husband does not get it. So we could talk about the center fire. The communication, I think you and him may have to work it out a little bit, but we'll talk about the center fire. Talk about that, Steve.
Okay, the problem with center fire is it's between the two places that you don't want it to be. The back cinch is the most important cinch. When it's correct, the saddle stays in place. The problem with center fire, and you already know it, partner, you think about this, when you go to get off your saddle rolls, when you go to get on your saddle rolls, hey, the saddle that was originally designed was a McClellan saddle, center rigged with a brass horn, and that was the mule saddle. But you got to also remember who was riding that saddle. What sizes are those saddles? 14 and 15 inch. Rarely do you see a 16 inch. And guess what? Those kids were a lot smaller than us old fat guys today, all right? So here, let's go with this, okay? I got a phone call the other day and an order, David. And in Colorado, there are Shriners, and they ride mules in the parade. They've been doing it for years. When you go along the highway heading up to Colorado Springs, you see a big, beautiful barn. Pardon me. And I forget what it's called, Ala Shahanmak. I don't know what it's called, but it's the Shriner's barn. And they've been riding these McClellan saddles for years. This guy called me up the other day and says, I can't keep the saddle on the mule. It keeps rolling, you know. And this guy, Dave, rode into Afghanistan before we started opening things up with Afghanistan and fighting that war. He was with 12 men going in on wooden saddles. He said it was tough. And this guy can ride. He went in with 12 guys to Afghanistan before all that stuff got started. So this guy's no dummy. Anyway, long story short, folks, center fire, you know, it does not keep the saddle into place. That rear cinch is the most important cinch. It's at the sweet spot on the belly. And we got some videos coming up on that and this sort of thing, some new stuff we just did for the future. But when it's there and it's correct, the saddle is going to stay in place. And if you watch my videos in there, you'll see a couple ladies from California, and you'll see me shove my arm clear through the cinches. The saddle is balanced. The cinch is in the right place. Breeching and breast collars there. It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, and matter of fact, folks, if you are not on Steve's mailing list, you need to be. You can send a message to support@muleranch.com. Say, hey, I want to get on Steve's list. In the coming days, actually, I'll get a link here. In the coming days, early summer, we're going to be releasing this huge 13 video training course, and I'm not going to get into all the details yet because we're still putting them together. But Steve and I took a good chunk of time to put together an amazing course, and the best part is we're going to be giving it away for free. It's going to be fantastic. Y'all are going to really love this. So when you see a link, make sure you get signed up there. I'm excited. Steve, I haven't shown you what we've done on the website yet to put it together so folks can go through video after video after video. But I'm going to show it to you. It's going to look
awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to
this is so cool, Dave. The old cowboys that I knew, they didn't want their pictures taken even. They were humble men.
Yeah.
I mean, if I got a movie camera going toward Nick, he'd go like this, you know. I say, Nick, I want to learn how to do it. I can't remember, you know. Well, you'll figure it out. You don't want to do this stuff, yada. You'll do it. You'll get. You know what, folks? If Dave's right, you know, I'm 69 years old, and the Lord may call me home in 2 minutes. I don't know, but if I've got the information there, it is preserved from now on, and then you all can go there and see it, and that's what's important to me. And I appreciate, you know, Dave helping me out and this sort of thing. You know, Dave has been on a mule twice, folks. And there was almost 10 years between the span. We'll get him in the saddle more, hopefully.
Yeah.
He's got to build his butt up a little bit before he's got his butt, right? So this is to help you, yeah, if you want to take my 40 years of making mistakes, of 32 broken bones and 2 replaced hips, I want to help you, and that's what I'm here for, huh, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. I'm very excited. The next question we got, this one's from Bruce, comes all the way, Bruce and Sharon, all the way from Queensland, Australia, international. We're starting to use mules for cattle work, pushing a few cows in yards. She's fine, but sensitive to cattle walking behind her. Small mob, not too bad, but anything over 100 heads, she is not comfortable. Any feedback there? Anything to do to help with that comfort level? Help that mule have a little bit more confidence?
You bet. Was that Queensland?
Yeah, Queensland, Australia.
Maybe they may know Ian and Mariana there in Queensland. He's got a little station there. It's only 790 square miles, he says. But anyway, okay, can I help? Okay, here's the thing. It's going to be up to you, the rider, and it's going to be up to you, the rider. And what I mean by that is keep your mule thinking straight. Don't let him look to the right and get worried, look to the left and get worried. Don't worry about that. If they try to go forward with your hands, right, left, ask. If they're not responding, right, left, tell. If they're still not responding and listening to you, right, left, right, left. Really hard. And I mean, do it where you almost knock them off their feet. That's asking, telling, demanding. They will respond. I have people say all the time, I'm worried about hurting their mouth. They'll get over it, folks. Listen, I can't tell you how many strawberry patches I created in the corner of the mouth. I have. Now, the other thing you got to remember, too, is I don't use the same bits as most folks do. I've seen more cut tongues with a smooth snaffle bit than any bit out there. So that's what I would do. Keep riding forward. Keep them centered. Keep them focusing on center. It's when we allow them to dink around and look around to the right and left, therein lies the problem.
Next question we got. This one comes from Deanna over on YouTube. She says, work with Elsa the yearling and the come along rope for the first time today, teaching her how to lead. Having trouble with getting her to walk forward out of a circle. She'll go left or right easily, but will stop, and tugging doesn't work. Pulling, she'll give a few steps. I release and she'll follow about 10 feet and stops. Is that enough progress at a time?
Absolutely, way enough progress. Listen, if you get just 2 feet forward, call it good that day. Don't try to get everything done all at one time. So here's the other thing too. You've got to remember their eyes are wide apart. So when you're leading them forward, if you're fairly close, they're trying to see you and they're not sure where you are completely. They can see half of you and stuff. So it's okay. I want you to have, on that come along rope, try to have 3 to 4 foot of rope. Not up close, 3 to 4 foot. That way you've got your leverage and you can guide her. Now, she's a baby. She's learning. So it's okay to go a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and then you're going to start working forward. Now, the left brain sees it, the right brain sees it, the left brain sees it. But when you're trying to go forward, both brains at the same time, it's too much information for that baby. And listen, it's also too much information for a lot of older animals too. You're trying to cross a creek and they're concerned about what's going on. So to show them with the right brain, show them with the left brain, show them with the right brain, and then they'll get it. Remember, they don't have the cranial lobe that tells the right side the left side's doing and the left side the right side's doing. So when you're training your baby, you're going to train half at a time, piece at a time. But it sounds like you're doing good. Remember the steps, 3, 6, 9.
Yeah.
3, 6, 9, folks. 3, 6, 9, and then 12. So you're going to go 3 times forward with your feet moving. Quit that day. No more. We're done. A week later, 10 days later, the next day even, and you do not have to train every day. Then do those 3 plus 3 more, and then quit. 3, 6, 9, 12.
Very good. So this is a good one, and it's coming from Dawn, and I want you to talk a little bit about folks being able to train their own animals. So Dawn says, can I send my 2-year-old mule to you to train? And so I can answer that. So Steve doesn't do any training on the ranch anymore. He's got too much travel going on, spending a lot of time going from this place to that place. And one of the reasons is because we've been able to do these clinics here. This has been allowed Steve to get into contact with hundreds of more people in such a small amount of time. So this has really transformed the way Steve is able to run the business, help folks out, and meet new folks. But what I want you to talk about, Steve, is the fact that a lot of times people think that they need a professional to train their animal. Now, there might be some things where I just don't have the time to do it, or things like that, can't get around that. But when it comes to the idea that I need a professional, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know it's something you're very passionate about, folks feeling empowered and knowing that they are equipped and that they are able to put in the work to train their own animals. Talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to remember, folks, most folks are used to riding horses. They're going to saddle them different. They're going to bit them different. And as we were talking about the program earlier, they're going to ride them different. So look, you got a 2-year-old, enjoy it. All right, take your time. That 5 DVD set that I have, Dave, on foundation training, all 5 of them people have never ridden a colt before. You'll see all the steps right in there, ABC. Do the groundwork yourself. Do your first saddling, the first riding, everything. If you see in that video, the steps are easy, folks. You know, you'll see all 5 of them mules, none of them buck. None of them. Everything is done step by step. Groundwork was done first, then the saddling, then the riding. Everything was done first, you know, to prepare it. You don't need a bronc buster. You don't need somebody else with experience. And you got a 2-year-old baby. Look, you got another 6 to 8 months before their knees are closed. And you sure don't want somebody on top of their back. You sure don't want to saddle on their back until their knees are closed. Think about the health of your animal. Get your teeth floated. Make sure the feet are balanced and trimmed up all the time. Keep all that stuff going. Do your groundwork. As the groundwork progresses, when the knees are closed, and by the way, go to your vet, have them do your sonograms on it and this sort of thing, your x-rays, and try to figure out if the knees are closed. That's really important.
All right, so the next question we've got here are actually a couple comments. Jack says, I have Steve's Trail Light saddle, 3 years old, and keeps getting more and more comfortable. So we like hearing that, Jack. Thank you for that. Daniel Stevens says, okay, so Steve, this one, I know you've heard this before, so let's just go after it head on. Hi, Steve. I'm always hearing people on social media complain about your saddles and some of your methods. I've been using your tack and applying your training techniques with great success. I'm always sharing my positive experiences with Queen Valley Mule Ranch. Can you talk just a little bit about why there might be some folks out there? Of course, there's lots of different reasons, but why there might be some folks out there who it's just not a fit for them. And is that okay that it's not a fit for them? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, my old buddy Tom Dorrance, who's long since passed away, he'd always tell the folks, well, look, if it don't work for you, don't use it. Don't work for you, don't use it, period. You know, Dave, I am way different than the other trainers. I am way, way different. I know that. I know why my techniques are different. I know the way I communicate to people is different and this sort of thing. And you know what? That's how the world goes around. We're all a little bit different. So if it don't work for you folks, don't use it. You're hearing some positive feedback here. And listen, here's the other thing too. You know, if it's not working for you, don't use it. But maybe you need to go watch the video a little bit closer and see. I can tell you that Dr. Robert Myler, with his imprinting, when I first heard about it and saw it, I thought, that is garbage. That is a bunch of garbage. But now I say imprint them animals. Do them right. But the problem was, Dave, the techniques. People were using the wrong techniques. If you got a particular training method that you like, Pat Pirelli, some of these others out there, use it. It works for you. Ken McNabb, you know, all these guys like that, if it works for you, use it. And you've also got Eric Palmer, his training
Yep.
techniques and stuff like that. Eric uses my saddles, my bits and stuff like this. He's got some of his own things that he does. If it works for you, use it, folks. But here's the deal, Dave. I'm not going to spend my time condemning some other trainer, condemning some other saddle. I think that people ought to look at the best of everybody and say, it works for him, leave him go, and then go do your own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things, folks, I can tell you that I've been around when there's been some folks who have, disagreeing, differing opinions from Steve. And one of the things that I appreciate most about the community of, the folks that Steve's a part of and the folks that we're a part of is the level of respect and just kind-heartedness towards one another. I know that Steve has several folks who he respects and is in good relationship with, and there's some differing opinions. And the fact that we can disagree and still find love in our hearts for one another, and still find it that, hey, we're just going to disagree on this, but we're going to find our other common ground. And you know what? That's okay. The world needs examples of folks who know how to disagree in kindness and in love. And so, that's what we'll do. We'll disagree in kindness and in love, and we'll find common ground where we can find common ground.
You bet. Absolutely. Like Pat Pirelli, I know Pat well. Him and I talk together all the time. We were just at Hoosiers. A lot of people say, I don't like Pat Pirelli. Okay, that's fine. But you haven't been where that man's been. If anybody's put an imprint, if anybody's put a print in the equine world, it's been Pat Pirelli. You may not like his techniques or like his whatever, but you know what? The man has changed the equine world. And that's pretty awesome. And it's like I talked to Dr. Miller. We talk about that all the time. My little print out there helping the mule world. If I can help out a mule better understand a person, man, that's why I'm here. Let's go do it.
Yep, very good. So next question, this one comes in from David over on YouTube. Just simply says, trailer overview. So I've got a video that I'm going to send him, but can you just talk very quickly, maybe just give me a couple things that folks don't think about when it comes to trailering, that folks don't think about when it comes to getting the animal to go up in there. Just give me a very broad answer, and then I'm going to share a link to the YouTube video that we got and then the training video that we have.
You bet. Now, folks, trailers are super important. These trailers these days are awesome. What I used to do is I had my pickup truck, my rack, and I jumped them in the back of the pickup truck, and we went off up the desert, up in the mountains. That was our trailer. And then we made trailers, little homemade 2 trailers and this sort of thing. Notice, folks, you rarely see a 2-horse trailer. It is a dinosaur, okay? And the downside about it, those pretty spooky for these mules, and they don't like 2-horse trailers. Get yourself a nice 3-horse slant with a gooseneck or a tag on the bumper, and the mule is going to be far more comfortable going down the road. And that's the thing, folks. You know what it's like when you're not comfortable going down the road? Think about your mule. He's back there going 65 miles an hour down the road, and it's bumpy, it's going, and the trailer's moving around. These new axles, these new springs, these new trailers ride like a dream. And think about your mules in that way. Trailer loading and this sort of thing, we've had some experiences with that over the years, of course, but just have a nice, open, airy type trailer that they can enjoy. And folks, here goes. We've got these new trailers where you open up the doors and everybody can see the horses. Oh, look, you can see the mules sticking their heads out. Guess what? Have a bug hit your eye at 60 miles an hour. Think about that. We used to put goggles on our animals when we jumped them up in the back of the truck so that they wouldn't have the bugs hit them and this sort of thing. We'd dig them out of their ears or whatever. But when a bug hits you at 60 miles an hour, it don't feel good. Close up the windows or put the screen up and rock and roll down the road.
Very good. So I put a link to some thoughts on trailer loading. I put that, it's a YouTube video, put that in the comment section. And then I put a link to the trailer loading instructional video that we filmed out here in Arizona. Basically went from animal that had to have, upwards of 7 people, pushing him up into the trailer, to that animal walking in and out on his own. Steve wound up tying him up, rope halter, tied him up inside, let him just sit and pod, and eventually just wound up getting real quiet. But Steve goes through everything up until that point. So it was a lot of ground foundation training. Really good video. Next question here. This comes from She's a Blast over on YouTube. I love these screen names. Greetings from O'Halley and Sandpoint, Idaho, up near the Canadian border, right near Montana. I have a couple of Steve's saddles and most of his videos. I have really enjoyed this live stream. Great idea. Love hearing that. She's a Blast. P.S. Looking great, Steve. Keep up the great work. Thank you for all you do in our amazing horse community. That's awesome to hear. Love hearing that. Thank you for the comment. She's a Blast.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's see. Let's keep going through. Next comment. This one came in from Julia. I called her Julie earlier. Julia Brown. I love my Trailite saddle that I bought used. Came with off-billet and leather latigo. When I met Steve at Pomona Expo, I bought a 4 nylon latigos, 2 cinches, pad, britchin, and breast collar. I love it, and the mule prefers it to the other saddle I have. Love hearing that. Dawn, she was the one who asked earlier if she could send the animal to you for training. She says it is a time restriction issue. I just don't want him to get too old without training. So I get that, and hopefully you'll be able to find a good trainer there. And you know what, Dawn, also be networking with folks who are on this live stream. Something really cool happened about a week and a half, 2 weeks back, is we had somebody in the Netherlands asking questions. And, hey, I want to be able to do this, want to be able to do that. Do you know anywhere around here? We've got Yolanda and we've got Suze who are in the Netherlands. So I tagged them in it. Yolanda was right on it. Hop, skip, and a jump right to that person, making sure they got the help they needed. So be sure to voice your needs here. You have something you're going to say there, Steve?
What state is she in?
Let's see. Dawn, she's told us before, maybe Connecticut. I can't remember if she said Connecticut.
Oh, my. Oh my!
I think she said Connecticut. But there's so many folks. I can't quite keep them all. All their locations straight.
I know a good trainer up in Connecticut. He's also a school teacher, but I watched the guy train and work with some animals, and boy, he's pretty darn good.
Well, we'll find out. We'll see what Dawn says.
Yeah.
So the next question that we got here, this was here we go. Jana says, oh, this is a good one, Steve. Jana says, I have a lot of people asking me, why a mule? Why not a horse? How do you respond to something like this? What a great question.
Yeah, every time I go out and I go outside of the mule and donkey community, I was just in Scottsdale over the weekend with Wycliffe Bible interpreters. And I tell you what, Dave, that was an experience. Wycliffe and Associates.
Yeah.
These guys go into a village, and there's some people there that can read English, and they go in and they read it, and they read the Bible, and then they interpret it in their language. Mm-hmm. And in 2 weeks, Dave, they've got a Bible. Wow! So cool. So I said all that to say this. They put us at tables so that we would meet somebody each time we would eat. So I went and sat down at this table, and everybody's talking about where they're from and what they do. And when they looked at me, they said, well, what do you do? I said, well, I train mules and donkeys. And you do what? You just see this look over their face like, I know what a doctor is, I know what a mechanic is, but you train mules to do what? To do what? And I look at them and I say, well, I teach them to communicate with people. I'm a mule psychologist, and everybody just blows away. And then I explain to them about things that I do. I talk about the stubborn mule, which they don't exist, yada, yada. But yeah, I hear it all the time. I'll be sitting in an airplane flying someplace, and we get talking. They say, what do you do for a living? I train mules to do what? It's amazing, People just don't think about mules these days.
When I tell folks that I work with you, they'll say something like, mules?
Yeah.
Mules? And I say, yeah. And all I start doing is I just start repeating the fantastic things I've ever that I've heard people say about him. And one of them happened at one of your clinics that we had on the ranch last year. Someone was sharing his experience. He says, I've always been a horse person, and I went out with a buddy. Buddy said, I got a couple mules here. Would you like to ride one of the mules instead of the horse? He's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and give it a try. Didn't know anything about the mule. Didn't know anything about the donkey. Got up on the mule, and the way he described it, he says, I was blown away. It was like riding a Cadillac. I was like, man, I could get used to this. This was pretty awesome. And he just started talking about how the mule is so intentional. The mule is very intelligent in the way it chooses to position itself, the way it chooses to get itself ready for different, things that it has to do. And so I just start repeating what I've heard other folks say and say, that's why I enjoy talking with them. I love learning about these animals. So maybe that's something she could do too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I get a kick out of your kids when they were over there at the ranch.
Yeah.
And the one saying more.
Oh, yeah.
Is this the sign more? You couldn't get him out of the saddle.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid says, no, this mule, I'm going to ride him. And he's doing the sign of more. I mean, he's got this stoic look over his face when we first put him in the saddle.
Oh.
But you could just see that it was just changing. And when, there you are.
That was him right there. That's Stevie, 2 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Notice the helmet, folks. Helmets. Put your helmets on. You'll see me in the videos with helmets. But yeah, Stevie, he says more. And we couldn't get him out of the saddle. I mean, you had to explain to him, we can't. And Stevie's going like, more,
He says it to me now. I wake up, I come home at the end of the day. He calls me Die. He goes, Die. He comes up, gives me a big hug, and then he looks up to me. He goes, a mule. Like, you rode the mule? Yeah. You want to ride the mule again? That's how he does it. And I'm not exaggerating. That is exactly what he does.
That's what a lot of folks do,
Yeah.
It's amazing. They ride the bottom of the Grand Canyon. I talked to a lot of people that have ridden the canyon. Said once they've ridden the canyon, you know what a mule's for.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see here. Leslie Nicole Hill. Hi, Steve. My 10-year-old John Mule and I are learning together. He was my introduction to the equine world. I've been working with him for a few months, and I'm having a great experience. He knows that if I hold a lunge whip, then it's business. He is very easy to work with. When there is no whip, he won't move without a lot of fussing around. How do I transition to no extension of my arm?
Okay, here's the deal, folks. Mules look at round pinning like, are you kidding me? Why do I keep going around in a circle? Mules don't like round pins. When do I use a round pin? I use a round pin when I got one hard to catch. I use a round pin my first ride. I use a round pin to get one to do my ground foundational training, but I do not do the horse training, go around in circles. Eventually, you can get it done. You can just use your body. You don't have to extend your arm and stuff. But this mule's saying to you, are you kidding me? What do you want me to do? I'm tired of going around in the circles. Folks, round pinning on donkeys and mules is they wig out, but you'll get one once in a while. All he wants to do is run. Well, unfortunately, that's the horse side. But you get the donkey side that's thinking, hey, wait a minute. Just tell me what you want me to do, and we'll do it. Round pin work, folks, it's an endless, mindless matter for these mules and donkeys.
So we've got, let's see here. We've got Jeremy watching from Houston. Tagged Stephen, so thank you for inviting Stephen, Jeremy. Let's see, we've got, what happened just there? Okay, we've got Julia saying, I finally started telling people that a mule makes me feel closer to God. There you go.
There you are. Well, just think about these folks we just heard, Dave. Mm-hmm. They're saying how much it makes them feel good, and the one lady's been doing it for like 10 months. We're talking with the one lady up in Connecticut. Yeah. It's a time frame. Hey, folks, kick back, smell the mules, relax, kick back, take it easy. You're going to get to ride sooner or later, but how many people, Dave, can say, I trained my mule.
Yeah.
I did it, you
Yeah.
know. And look how many people are using my DVDs and things like this, and they're using some techniques, and it's working for them. But guess what? They didn't take it to a horse trainer and spend 90 days there and $1,000 a week. I mean a month, and that would be cheap, more like $2,000 a month. And it's folks, they're trying to pound all that information in them in 90 days. You can't do it. 6 months builds a foundation, folks. 6 months, 4 to 6 hours a week, and that is all. But when you work on them so much that they get tired, they get wigged out, and then you take them home and they get old Fluffy gets to be wrestling around, and you're thinking, wait a minute, I bought a trained mule. Why is he doing this? Because it was pounded on him. All right? Every mule's got a different mind thinking. Some can handle a lot of pressure, but most want to see every move's a picture.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. Marnie says, I love my mule Amos. Had him a year and a half now. He was my first equine. That's fun to hear.
Yeah.
She says, I've been watching your videos, started using his Britchin this week. So very, very good. That Britchin is going to be Britchin, no croupers, Britchin.
Yes.
Let's see here. Okay, we've got Kenny over on YouTube saying, Shotgun Kenny Yates here, Minnesota. Hail to the Mule Man, best mule expert in the world. Good to see you.
Oh, great. Oh, thanks, Kenny. I appreciate that. Golly, that's fantastic. Good.
Pretty fun.
How about that?
You know, you said a second ago, you said sit back and smell the mules. I think that might be the first shirt that we do. Carlos, I think we need to do a shirt that says sit back and smell the mules. That might be pretty funny. Carlos, for those who don't know, Carlos works with me and Steve together. We all three get a lot of stuff done. So let's see. We've got Tracy here. Tracy says, my mini mule 7 hates my new horse mule 4. She's very jealous and won't let him near me. Can I make the situation better somehow? I want them to travel in a trailer together and go to shows. So Tracy and I had been messaging back and forth, and so this was her question that she just sent in. What do you have to say there, Steve?
Well, what she's doing is she's setting up the pecking order, Tracy. She's telling that horse, I'm the boss here, and that's the way it's going to be. And she's using you as kind of like the herd. So this herd leader, this little mule, is saying to this little horse, I'm the boss, this is the way it's going to be. You cannot change the pecking order of these mules and horses, folks. You can't do it. They set themselves up. Can you make it uncomfortable with them when they're on a lead line or when you're driving them? Yeah, you can bump when that little mule pins her ears at the horse and says, get away, bump, make him uncomfortable. You have to become the herd leader there, But what you're talking about there is nature. It's the way the good Lord made these guys to be around one another, and you're not going to change it.
Yeah. Let's see. I think
you can change it by, like I told you, bump when the mule's changing his attitude.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple more here. This is actually 2 questions came in. They were very similar. So Jude, I'll read both of them. Judy emailed, I just purchased my first mule. I love her. She is 13. And should I feed the mule the same as I feed my horses? Now, here's the second question. This is Evelyn. My neighbor is having money problems and is selling some of her animals. I plan to buy her miniature mule. I'm wondering if it can be fed the same grain as horses, but of course, a smaller amount. So let's talk a little bit about that. The feed for the mule versus the feed for the horse.
Okay. Number one, your mules, they have the fat pockets along the top of the neck, top of the ribs, top of the tail that they get from the donkey. So we are not going to be feeding a bunch of carbohydrates, grains, and this sort of thing, or alfalfas to your mule. If you're going to feed a grain, you feed a whole oat, and the day you're training on them or the day you're riding on them, there's where you give them the grain so that they'll burn off the energy. But no, you do not. You got a completely different metabolism with that mule compared to that horse. We've got some good articles on that and a video on it too, where I go into more depth You got to think, folks, you've got a horse body on a donkey leg and a donkey foot, and that's got to be tough on them to get around. So my strong suggestion is, change your feeding program. Read my articles that I have. Mules Can't Stand Prosperity. Watch some of the videos that I have, and don't feed them like a horse.
Very good. So let's see here. Next question we got. This one's from Trisha. She emailed in. Too many donkeys. They don't always whoa. They took off on me at an event. Whoa is my only issue. Been told to get a leverage bit. Don't use chin strap or noseband. What bit should I be using? 4.5 inch size is what I need. I drive with them. I'm a beginner and I tend to be heavy-handed. So I told my draft trainer, donkeys are 10 and 11 years old. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't use a smooth snaffle bit. And, you've got to first build a foundation with the snaffle. You've got to build a foundation. Can you use your snaffle bit training? Absolutely. But when you're riding them, they'll run right through that smooth snaffle bit. A smooth snaffle bit will make the mule stiff, as we've already heard in an earlier program. So my mule rider's martingale would be the perfect thing to get this mule thinking, get him going in the right direction. I've used that martingale for 25 plus years. And you got to remember also, you want to make sure their teeth are balanced. Get that done as well. So it could very well be that the TMJs are hanging up, and when they're running off, boom. And here's the thing, folks. Go back to this. When it comes down to a runaway, they're running through their shoulder. That's what they're running through. So you have to take the shoulder away. They're going through the shoulder. Remember, Dave, we talked about that? I said how he was running through the shoulder. Take the shoulder away. So he's going to the left. Take your left hand, pull up on it, take the shoulder away. What most people want to do is pull on the right rein to get them to go back to the right. Don't do that, because they'll run faster through their shoulder. So the other thing, too, is think about this. And you've experienced that, Dave. Right, left, right, left. If you want to get response, folks, with respect, you've got to ask, tell, demand. Asking, right, left. Telling, right, left. Demanding, try to rip their nose off, folks.
Yeah.
If you got the Grand Canyon coming up, you don't want to say, now, Fluffy, you got to stop.
No way.
Now, Fluffy, no, folks. When you're coming up to an area, you hit the brakes harder, don't you? You've got to do that with your mule. You've got to do that with your donkey. Right, left. There's the problem. You can bet that donkey, his nose is sticking up and his head's up in the air, and that's where the mule rider's martingale will help balance and fix that problem.
Very good. Let's see here. We're just rolling on through. Let me double check and see if we got any other questions that came in on Facebook. No, we got a few new folks though. As Mark Miller says, mules don't smell like a horse.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Mark. That's right.
Julia says, exactly, my mule doesn't smell. That's the only thing I miss about a horse. I smell other people's horses. Let's see here. Marnie says, I'm looking for some mule folks in Northwest Georgia. So if anybody is in Northwest Georgia, make sure to reach out to Marnie, because mules rock, she says. All right, let's go to the next question here. Mules stand still. Beth emailed in. She says, how do I get my mule to stand still during dismount? He's good for mounting, but wants to take a step at the worst time when my leg is over the cantle during dismount. I do have a hold of the reins. I'm probably not helping the situation because I'm used to my English saddles all my life, and my dismount out of the Western saddle isn't purdy. What would you have to say there?
Yeah, dismounting on an English saddle compared to Western saddle is way different, because dismounting on the English, people actually lean forward and slide off for their bellies to slide out. Where the Western rider has their foot in a stirrup, they're standing straight up and down, they roll around and they put their feet down. So it is different. So this is what I would do. I would put the mule up against a corral panel, or up against a hitching post, or up against a trailer, something like that, where they cannot move. Then what I would do is I would roll around in the saddle, I'd move around. My left hand is snug. My right hand is tight. My left hand has got the left brain looking at me. My right hand holds that brain so that he's looking at me. When you get off and they're looking straight ahead, some mules get concerned about all of a sudden they see that movement and they move forward. And they also think they've got to move forward to balance so that they don't get hurt getting off the saddle. So that's what you're going to do. Step one, tip the nose to the left, hold your reins steady, have them up against a corral panel, up against something so they can't come forward, or even have somebody stand there with a come-along hitch. That's another great way of doing it. Roll back and forth in the saddle, snug up their head a little bit, and as you get off, you throw your leg over, and you hit the ground.
All right. We're almost done here. We got David Ritchie says, sit back and smell the mules. I guess it depends on which end of the mule you are on. Let's see. She's a Blast says, they do smell, but like mountain candy.
Yeah, mountain
Mules
candy.
smell like mountain candy.
Yeah, I like She's a Blast. Good for her. That's good for mountain candy. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I think. Okay, Marcy sent a message in. Marcy says, my name is Marcy. I got my first mule ever in my life a few weeks ago. Her name is Martha. I love her. I live in Mount Pleasant, Utah. A question I have is when I first got my mule, she was not herd bound, but since she's introduced to our quarter horse mare, she has become almost dangerous to the point where she will not even leave her side. How do I get my confident, independent, non-herd bound mule back?
Yeah, unfortunately, Marcy, these mules are extremely subservient to horses. And if you got a horse that has been kind of lining your mule up, Martha, and telling her, don't do this, don't do that, then Martha's going to be responding to that horse. Mules are extremely, extremely subservient to horses. They are. They'll allow them to kick them. They'll allow them to beat them up. They'll allow them to feed on there and this sort of thing. Even if, Marcy, even if you put them in a separate corral, the mule would want to be with the horse more. It is not going to change it. So, and you'll get some of them that they just fall in love with the horse and you're done. And again, there's no changing that. Same thing with a goat. I've had people get a goat or get a pony to be a corral partner, and they can't separate them. They can't go anywhere without them. And that could very well be where you are there. She's fallen in love with that horse. She's smitten, and you cannot change the nature. You can make it tough on her. For instance, if I was in the saddle and she wanted to go over toward the horse, I would go again, folks, with my hands, right, left, right, left, right, left, and tell her don't do that. Or if I'm down on the ground, I've got the come-along hitch. She wants to go toward the horse, bump, 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 But you cannot take away the nature. She feels subservient to the horse. The horse has probably lined her up and told her this is the way it's going to be. And so she's going to pay more attention to that horse.
All right, we got 2 more questions, and then we're going to be all done. This one comes from Jenny. She says, I have a 12-year-old John mule that bites at his flanks and will kick out acting like he's angry. He's got a bare spot on each side where he bites himself. Could this be frustration of some sort?
Is he kicking out with both legs or looking back, kicking with the left and then the right and biting the flanks too? So, Dave, I've seen that in a few mules, and I found she needs to go and have the vet do a hair analysis and do a blood test, because I think this mule is zinc short, okay? And it's kind of an educated guess in general because I've seen it a couple times, but when they're biting at their flanks and they're kicking back, they've got something bothering them. And you have them do the test, do the hair analysis, that sort of thing. Also, you need to ask them, have they had their teeth done, and what's their worming program?
There we go. All right, so final question, and this one comes from Carolyn, who's just been fantastic today. Lots of great questions from Carolyn. Carolyn asks, have you talked about hobbling your mule? Will that help to teach them to stand still, or will it just make them mad? My mule throws a fit when tied alone. or away from others, and when tied to a trailer, starts pawing without ceasing. So hobbling.
All right. Hobbling is meant to stand still and quiet for just a few minutes while you're getting off working a calf, or when you're down using your glasses and looking, or down going to the bathroom, whatever, okay? And it's only meant for a short time. It is not to be a device to keep them from pawing. It is not a device to allow them to graze, all right? So, number one, adjust the halter where the halter adjusts on their nose just right. They look to the right and they want to paw, the halter bumps them. Look to the left and they want to paw, if halter bumps them. When they move their head around and stuff, in other words, folks, when the head moves, the mule is going to move. He's going to move his feet. Okay, the pawing. Take about 16 inches of chain, heavy chain, a real heavy chain, and take a small strap and tie above the knee on the right and on the left side, and tie that chain. When the mule paws, he will paw and hit his cannon bone with the chain. Now, if he paws a lot, that chain can slip down the head, down the leg. So, take you a piece of twine and tie on the hobble on the right leg, go over to the left leg with a piece of string going across the top of the animal. It'll keep the hobbles up. And then when they paw, that bangs on their cannon bone and makes him uncomfortable. All right, now, go back to this. When they paw and they quit pawing for just a couple minutes, where they stop pawing, get over there, take the hobbles off right away. Let them see that when they hobble, when they're pawing in that spot, is going to make them uncomfortable. Now, Dave, you've seen it there at the ranch. I've got rubber mats at every place where I tie up. When they've got the rubber mats, they can't paw and dig anywhere.
Yeah.
But you use the chain, folks. That's a wonderful tool. Hi, Jess. Here's my puppy.
Hey, Jess. How's it going? Jess.
Yeah. Say hi. Yeah. Here, Jess. Say hi here.
Hey, Jess.
Everybody, Jess. You
Jess.
see him? You see him? Yeah. Okay.
There's that border
Jess says
collie
hi.
right there.
Okay, Jess.
Let's see. So that's everything that we had for this week,
Jess,
Steve. We had a really great comment here from Marnie. Marnie says, I just want to say I'm grateful for all your knowledge and info. The mule doesn't get the recognition it deserves. When you type mule on the internet, it pulls up shoes. It's so sad. Have you seen that, Steve? It pulls up them shoes.
Yeah, it does. I never forget when I first started getting on a computer and I put on mule and it comes up shoes. I thought, how many shoes could somebody make?
Yeah.
There's just all kinds of shoes. Here, Jess, here, Jess.
Yeah.
Well, mule shoes. You're right.
There's nothing about the animal on the first page. Maybe I'll have to set my sights on that next for the website.
Yeah. Well, usually we come up. What's going on there? Maybe we better just use the word mule and see what happens.
Yeah, right.
Mule or mules or the mule, this sort of thing,
Jana chimed in with a very sweet comment. Jana says, I agree, Marnie. Steve is so kind whenever I talk with him. I know I have so much to learn, and I appreciate all of Steve's knowledge and his willingness to help, and I know that's what we do this for. Oh, She's a Blast on YouTube just said this. Jess is getting my dogs barking. That's funny.
Jess, did you hear them dogs? You heard it, didn't you? Yeah. Okay, that'll do. Jess here. Good boy.
There it is.
Yeah. Hey, Jess is 2 years old. He just turned 2 years old on the 14th.
Puppy's growing up.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Puppy's growing up. Well, Steve, it's been another great time. Thank you so much for setting aside your Wednesday afternoon. I know you got a lot of things going on. A lot of folks calling. I know you got some phone calls to return here, so I appreciate you taking some time to continue to do this live stream with you. And folks, if you want to go into more depth on anything, feel free to call Steve 602-999-6853. Of course, you can find his phone number on the website. It's right there. You will talk to him. Now, leave a voicemail, and he might not get back to you right away because there's a lot of folks who we had some phone issues. And so we're getting back a whole bunch of voicemails that we haven't been able to get to in the last day. But Steve will get back with you, and you can send me a message, support@muleranch.com, and we'll get back with you. But yeah, don't be shy. Don't hesitate to ask your question. We want to help you. And if you haven't gone to the YouTube channel, I'll put a link right there to the YouTube channel. There's just about every single video you could want. We've got something there. So I just put a link in the comment section where you can go and check out the entire YouTube channel. Steve, anything else before we say goodbye for this
No,
week?
I was just looking here. I've got 35 phone calls I need to make here, Dave.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I call them. I talk to them.
You're
Here's
like
the thing,
Mule
folks.
Superman. They're throwing up the, or the Mule Batman. They're throwing up the mule signal in the sky, and Steve's having to call everyone back.
That's right. Yeah. Folks, you're going to find rarely am I going to be able to answer the phone. You know, like just earlier, I was trying to figure out how my phone was having a problem, and I got it fixed now, so I spent quite a bit of time there. Then I had to go down, and I was getting a load of stuff in from the trucks. You never know where I'm going to be, or I've got my hands on the reins. I was just underneath my truck, so don't expect me to answer the phone, but do expect me to call you.
Yeah.
Leave your phone number. Let me call you.
Yep. There we go. All right, Steve. Thanks so much. Everyone,
Alrighty.
thanks for tuning in. Make sure to connect with us. Send in your questions. If you're looking for anything, you can go to muleranch.com. All the tack, all the saddles, all the training, all the videos, all the articles, all the posts, all the pictures, all the demonstrations. It's all there at muleranch.com. It's a huge resource, and a lot of it is free. So, go there. Check it out. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, folks. Hey, we'll see y'all